In this video, we're going to be talking about 3 simple secrets to have the best worship team devotional time you've ever had in your entire life. Coming up. Hey, Spencer here from leadingworshipwell.com. This is the place where we talk about how to lead yourself well, lead your church well, and lead worship well. So if you're interested in that, click subscribe down below and let's get into it, because today we're talking about one of my favorite things to talk about, and that is worship team devotionals. Do you lead your team in a worship team devotional? Let me know down in the comments below. Do you regularly do worship team devotionals? For me, I do one every time I get together with my worship team, because I think that it is hands down one of the best ways to lead your team well, and to specifically lead them relationally and spiritually. Whenever you make your worship rehearsals about more than just running through the songs, and you implement this devotional piece into it, which turns your worship team, transforms it from a band into more of a small group, and you allow people to build relationships and you build them up spiritually, I think that's what we're supposed to do as a worship leader, and worship team devotionals are the best way to do that. But I also understand that worship team devotionals can be difficult. It's hard to come up with something every single week, right? Like, what am I going to talk about next week? What am I going to talk about this week, right? So maybe you get online and you just type in devotional, and the first thing that pops up, you print it out and you lead it with your team, and it just feels boring. It feels like it falls flat. Well, that's why in this video, we're going to be talking about 3 simple secrets to having the best worship team devotional time you've ever had in your entire life you can possibly have with your worship team. So let's get into it. What are the 3 simple secrets? The first secret to the best worship team devotional is this: make it specific. Make it specific to your worship team. I've been part of worship teams, and I've probably done it before, where our worship team devotional looked something like this. And I'm calling myself out here because I've done this too. It's like, team, thanks for coming together for worship rehearsal. I don't know why I'm talking like this. I don't talk like this when I do it. I'm mimicking myself here. Team, thanks for coming together for worship rehearsals. We're going to start off with the devotional, and this week I was reading the book of Romans, and I came across Romans 8, and I wanted to read that as a team. And you read it, and it's a nice little time of talking about the Bible, but it's not specific to your worship team. You have the opportunity during your worship team rehearsals to speak directly to your worship team and lead your worship team spiritually and specifically, and pour into their understanding of what it means to be a worship team leader. And that's why I don't lead general worship, or I don't lead general devotionals for my worship team anymore. Anytime we talk about something at worship rehearsals, it's tied directly into the fact that they are a worship team member. It's not just some random thing that I found on the Bible app and quickly talk about some general spiritual truth. Not that there's anything necessarily wrong with that, but it's my expectation that my worship team members would be a part of a small group anyway, so they're already getting something like that in their small groups. And then on Sunday, our pastor's teaching about something, and they're probably learning about something on their own. And then why would I just throw another general spiritual truth at them when I am the worship team leader and I want them to be built up as a worship team member? So if you want your worship team devotionals to be amazing, make it specific to your worship team. And plus, that's going to make it easier for you to come up with something to talk about, because whenever you're just doing a general devotional, you could talk about anything, right? But whenever you're like, no, I'm going to talk about something specific to my worship team, or we are going to discuss that as a worship team, that narrows your boundaries of what you can talk about and makes your choice a little bit easier. So make it specific. Talk about something specific to your worship team. Talk about what it means to be a worship leader. Talk about what worship is. Talk about, any of those things. And it will instantly be a better worship team devotional. Let's move on to secret number 2. Secret number 2 for better worship team devotionals is this. And this is a big secret. This isn't just true of worship team devotionals. This is true of all devotional times in your church, I believe. The second secret is to let discussion be the content. Let discussion be the content. The reason that worship leaders, and I know myself, I've done this in the past, the reason we don't come up with a devotional and we kind of skim over it is because, like I said, it's really hard to come up with something to lead every single week. And we put all of this pressure on ourselves and we think, I need to come up with 15 minutes of material to lead my worship team through. But the thing is, you don't. And people don't even like that when you do that anyways. Whenever you have this long devotional that you read, or you just stand there and teach them for 15 minutes, I don't think that that's the most beneficial way to lead your team. The most beneficial way to lead your team is to teach them one super simple, specific idea, and then throw it out to them and give them the opportunity to discuss it. You throw it out to them, give them the opportunity to discuss it, and now you only have to talk about 5 minutes about something small, and then they carry the conversation for 10 minutes. As the leader of a small group, which you're kind of treating your worship team as, it's not your job to talk all the time. In fact, as the leader of a small group, your job is to talk as little as possible and create stimulating discussion in your group that allows your worship team to have an authentic conversation with each other around a topic that you're facilitating. So maybe all you ask for your devotional is, what is the one song that you feel like is working the best in our church right now, and why is it working the best? Your team could have a 15-minute conversation about that easily, because they would all have different ideas of what they think the song that's working best in your church right now is, and you'd get to talk about like the stories of the people in your church. Like, this song's working well right now because this is going on in the life of our church and people are responding to that. And you see how that's much more of a discussion than you like giving a 15-minute theological dissertation on the sacrifice of worship. Like, we want to create discussion, and then when you create discussion, you don't have to talk as much. Simple as that. So, secret number 2, let discussion be the content. And finally, secret number 3 is to do this. Ask yourself this one thing. What is the one specific, practical thing that I want my worship team to take out of our devotional time? What is the one specific, practical thing I want my worship team to take away from this devotional time? You only need to come up with one thing. You don't have to have a 5-point list, right? You aren't a Calvinist, right? Don't be a Calvinist when it comes to devotional time. Just come up with one thing. You got 52 rehearsals in a year. If you just committed to giving them one practical thing that they can implement into their worship leading every single week for an entire year, you would create 52 small changes in your worship team over the course of a year. Like, that's astonishing. That is an astonishing number. 52 changes in your worship team in a year. But so often we try to implement 52 changes in 1 week, and then people have no idea what you're talking about. They don't know what to focus on, and so they focus on nothing, and you never implement or improve your worship team. So focus on one thing, and then use that one thing to guide the discussion question that you're going to throw up for them, and then allow them to discuss it. And that is like you asking a poignant question that is specific to your worship team is so much more beneficial than just teaching them for 15 minutes. It's that easy. We make it so complicated, but if you use this method, you're going to have amazing worship team devotionals. So there they were, the 3 secrets to the best worship team devotional you can possibly have. Make it specific. Let discussion be the content, and make sure you have one practical thing that your worship team will take out of it. Just one, not 3, not 5, not 60. Just one practical thing. And I believe that worship team devotionals are essential to a great worship rehearsal structure, and having a good structure for your worship rehearsal is the best way to make sure that your worship team is led well. And that's why I put together the worship rehearsal blueprint down in the description below. You can check it out down there, completely free. Just click the link and you'll find it. And in that worship rehearsal, I share with you the 5 things that you need in your worship rehearsal to have the perfect worship rehearsal every single time. I even share with you a sample schedule of a worship rehearsal that you can implement into your own worship ministry to make sure that your worship team is led well. And of course, devotionals are one of those 5 things that I talk about in the worship rehearsal blueprint. So check that out down in the description below. Other than that, thanks so much for joining me. Until I see you in the next video, keep leading worship well.